Hello everybody and welcome into the Galen Center for USC's home opener. It's number 10 USC who hosts number 12 UC Santa Barbara, and I'm Max Kelton alongside Coach Cameron Green here in your old stomping grounds. It's a great matchup between two teams that started the season facing each other, and now it's their second time on opposite ends of the net. Coach, what's your take on this one early on?
Well, the one thing I know about these two programs is there's no love lost between these two teams. It's not your traditional rivalry, but these teams have battled a lot in the past, and so I know they're ready to battle tonight. So I'm looking forward to a good fight between both these teams.
Both rosters are peppered with AVCA All-Americans from last season. Kevin Cobrine, the transfer from UCLA, the grad student, was a second-team selection. Simon Gallis, also an All-American, second-team selection for USC. As for the Gauchos, Dane Chalmers, Ryan Wilcox, and Jack Walmer headline this starting lineup.
Yeah, tight pass to start off the night. Little net violation by Nate, but here we go again.
Nate Tennant, a walk-on a couple of seasons ago, was the reigning off-the-block national setter of the week after he had 51 assists in the most recent game against UC Irvine. Going to Klein early, and Dylan Klein finds the strike. This is a young man who has tremendous potential. Great athleticism, too.
Potential is an understatement. He comes from a long lineage of volleyball and football, just all athleticism in his family, and it shows.
A player who last year was named the AVCA High School Player of the Year. That was Lucas Frassring that time with the serve. Now Bianchi, the out of system. And the kill from Ryan Wilcox. If he gets into a rhythm, the Gauchos have a chance to do some damage early.
Definitely. They have a lot of firepower from everywhere. They do love to run the middle, which they started with there. Trying to establish that early is big for their game.
And number 24, Brandon Hicks, somebody to watch out for. Hadn't played in the last few, but he's a staple. Maybe not the player that will get high volume, but rather somebody who is a captain on the floor. George Dyer, the bump set for Klein, overhands, and it's tapped out. Last touch by UCSB, so it's even here.
An out-of-system pass for USC, but they don't mind living in that world. They're used to hitting high balls and high off the hands, and that was a great swing on the outside.
So when they're in system, it's Nate Tennant who is running this offense. His first year as a starter with USC. Tennant lets it fly, picked up by Wilcox. The back set to Bianchi. You bet, down the line, he cuts it home.
Beautiful set. Blocking a lefty out there is always difficult, figuring out where to line up, and Dylan was just a little bit inside on that.
Well, that was Jack Walmer, the transfer out of Hawaii, who set up Bianchi on that play. A new quarterback for this UCSB team. And Coach Cam, you spent a lot of time with Walmer during his younger years. What do you think of that young man as a player?
Well, the best thing about Jack is his ability to compete and his volleyball IQ. He comes from a big volleyball family. Dad was an AVP player, so he knows this game well, which helps him as a setter. It's crucial.
He didn't get a ton of playing time with Hawaii, but hey, that was a two-time championship team, and even playing on the training side of the net, you help win those rings. And early on, you can see what a player Jack Walmer can be for UC Santa Barbara. They're getting more accustomed to his pacing, and he's getting more accustomed to the players that he has in his arsenal. So here is Jess Bianchi ready to let it go. Bianchi coming off a career-high 26 kills against Stanford. Tennant middle for Klein, who sends a home run far and out.
Klein doing the smart thing, trying to go high hands there, but he just missed. But that was the right play for that swing and that set.
Klein has tremendous athleticism, more than you'll see at many other levels, but a freshman nonetheless. What does he have to work on to get to his peak?
I think he just has to spend time in the game. He's so athletic. Coach Nygaard, when I talked to him earlier today, called him a generational talent. He just does things that nobody else can do. So for him, it's time on the floor, understanding the speed of this game, and being able to compete with all these guys that are so tough in this league.
Klein was one of those players on a Loyola team that was a runner-up in the California State Championship. That was Paulson who went into the net in UCSB with the side out. The Gauchos are siding out at 100% so far this evening.
That's a pretty good start.
Especially if you don't let this USC team get into a groove. This is a team that from the service line can get really hot. They have a lot of talent. Both teams do. Here's Dane Chalmers. George Dyer tracks it down. Now the free ball over from Frasrand. Walmer left it middle for Todorov, and it's picked up well by the Trojans. There's Gallus who goes over hands. Walmer back set for Bianchi from the 10-foot line. He strikes home. And Cobrine drops it down.
That's just a great play from USC, understanding what they like to do in transition. They know that UC Santa Barbara loves to run the middle in transition, and they were set on it. They got a great touch, and they turned a bad situation into a point, which was huge.
Cobrine is so good at adjusting on the fly. Last year, a finalist for the Brian Ivy Award given to the top opposite of the country. Gallus must have hit the weight room, went a little strong with it.
Yeah, USC knows they just got to get into rhythm with their serving. They like to get after it. They're not afraid to miss, but they got to find that good zone for them.
Tennant left it middle. Frashman went short. That was Cobrine who, he does tap hands. He does tap hands. That was Duran Jordan, the down ref, who made the call on that. It looked like it might have gone over hands just to start that play.
It was close. I wasn't sure if they got a touch on that, but he called it right away, and no one's arguing. I think they got it.
Typically, you could tell by the players on the court and their body language. Hey, if they need a call overturned, they know if they touched it or not. You know, they'll talk to coach, and that new system, that replay system, has been so crucial in changing the game and how coaches perceive their game plan. Max Gordon handled well. Walmer for Wilcox, who delivers the strike.
Yeah, Nate just ended up a little bit wide on his block and also a little bit late, which is the reason most of our blocks is missed. We're just not quite penetrated over the net in time.
And it's difficult playing against a guy like Ryan Wilcox, who is coming off a performance in which he played opposite. This is a traditional outside hitter, a captain on the floor, but he played opposite against Stanford, and Coach Rick McLaughlin said never again. For a guy like that, he's so comfortable in his position, and granted, yes, he does have versatility, but he is more well-suited to help this team when he's an outside hitter.
Absolutely, absolutely. And he's proven that time and time again this season.
Here's Lucas Frasrand, the Rockville, Maryland native. Bianchi cut it down the line.
Now that's a huge swing for the lefty on the left. That's a tough thing to do for any outside hitter as a left-hander, but to be able to turn the ball down the line like that is huge. SC's got to be able to get on that ball and get across the net early.
Well, Bianchi is certainly impressed over these last couple. He's coming off a career high with 26 kills, and he's an all-freshman team selection for the Big West Conference last year. So he's one of those guys who can really make a difference, especially when he gets more playing time.
Absolutely. It was huge for him to come in and take over for Reese Barnett, who was a huge factor for them and hasn't been able to play yet this season. So having him in there is huge right now.
Here's Nate Tennant. Bianchi met at the net, and Dylan Klein sends it back home.
Yeah, taking a look at Dylan there, he was across the net before Bianchi was taking that swing, and that's the best way to get a stuff block is getting across early and first. It was a great block.
Klein with great recognition there. The first time the Gauchos unable to side out on a USC serve. Back to Klein, and that falls just in, right on the line.
Excellent swing. The way to win this game is to capitalize on your chances that you create, and that was perfect. Dig and a kill. Great swing by Dylan Klein.
Klein with 5 attempts early on this evening. He'll have high volume, especially with Nate Tennant running the offense. And it's a new offense for both of these teams. Nate Tennant takes over the offense for USC this season, the reigning off-the-block setter of the week at quarterback for USC. And as for the Gauchos, Jack Walmer, the transfer out of the two-time champion Hawaii, to run the offense for UC Santa Barbara. Coach, how difficult is it for you to adjust when two new setters are on the floor and it's a new era for each of these programs?
100%. It takes time to learn the rhythm and the timing, because the game is so fast now that timing is everything. So it takes some time, and I know that Coach Nygaard said they're basically learning on the fly right now, and he's doing an incredible job. And in the fall, I guess he was winning every drill, which is why he's on the floor right now. And no matter what team he was with, he was winning, and that's all that matters when you're doing drills with setters. That's what you look for. Are they winning? And that's what he's doing. That's why he's playing, and he's doing a great job.
I spoke to Coach Nygaard earlier today. He said, regardless of whether he's a walk-on, the real question is, can you get the job done? If he gets the job done, I don't care what color pants he wears. I don't care where he came from. Can he play at the level that we expect? And Nate Tennant has really been able to show that this season. Bianchi goes into hands. Gauchos kept it alive. There's Chalmers who fires it off the tool.
Yeah, like I said, he just was winning drills, and it was hard for him to not be on the court. And you can see by the way he competes and the way he plays now that he's calm. He's got confidence out there, and he's doing a great job.
So now Brandon Hicks will let it go. Hicks a senior on this team, much of a leader for the Gauchos. Chalmers went straight to Dyer. The cross look, and Simon Gallus couldn't get enough on it.
He got a little bit underneath that ball. I don't think he got quite wide enough on his approach, and when you're out of system with the high ball, you got to get wide so you can attack that ball at the right angle, and he just got a little bit underneath it, made it tough for him to kill the ball.
That makes it a 4-0 run for UC Santa Barbara after Gallus couldn't cleanly fire that one away. Tennant, backdoor for Klein. The sharp angle soars out.
Yeah, that's an error that can happen. We call those yellow lights in our game, where it's not a set that you can kill. You have to keep it in, because there's no reason that we shouldn't be playing defense again. So those balls have to be in. Those errors can't happen.
He's a player that's going to learn. A young freshman at 6'4" with tremendous athletic ability, but he just, as you said, has to be around the game more, and those mistakes will happen less and less.
Yeah, he'll learn that as he goes. Let your team play defense.
They set it for Gallus. He goes into the three-man weave. UC Santa Barbara kept it alive. There's Bianchi who got it over. Tennant back to Gallus this time, and Wilcox handles well. And that's a stuff right at the net. Kyle Paulson there in the heart of it.
That's a tough swing to make on a high ball. You have to be going for high hands on that. He's aiming for outside of the court, not down. Low seam does not work in this league, and I think he just took too low of a swing on that, trying to beat the block underneath instead of off the hands.
That's Paulson's 18th block of the season. That's a team high for this number 10 USC team who exceeded expectations last season. George Dyer out of system for Cobrine, who finds the floor.
Speaking of finding rhythm, that's what happened on that play for Santa Barbara. They were a little bit out of sorts. The rhythm wasn't there, and they had to give a roll shot. SC capitalized on it. Great play by them.
This is an SC team with a lot of new faces. Last year, All-Americans throughout the entire roster after a 22-7 season, led by transfer Sam Cobrine. Then his brother followed in his footsteps, coming over to USC from UCLA. But take a look at how many players that this program lost to graduation and more. Sam Cobrine, the All-American honorable mention. Liam Schroeder, Adam Flood, Chris Hall, All-American honorable mention, and Cole Paxson, the MPSF honorable mention as well. This was basically the entirety of the starting lineup for USC, and it's new faces who have had to develop new chemistry.
Yeah. It's tough. That's some of the hardest part. That's why Coach Nygaard said they're kind of learning on the fly as they're going so far. They have had guys hurt, and they haven't had a full team at practice for more than 6 or 7 times. So right now, he said they're just going and competing and letting it happen as it happens. But so far, they're doing a great job. It's been exciting to watch these two compete so far.
And that came from a tremendous turnaround the year prior. Back in 2021, USC was 5-13 overall, 5-12 in MPSF play, and they were playing without the benefit of that fall season because of COVID. It's difficult to get a rhythm, but then a big turnaround with so many new players, and it feels like somewhat of a culture shift with this USC program.
That's actually big for Coach Nygaard. That's one of his top priorities when he's recruiting, is the type of players that he's recruiting and the type of young men that they are, because he feels like if he gets the right culture in the gym, things are going to change, and obviously he's proven that, and he's very strict about that and doesn't mess around. So it's definitely a credit to him and the type of men that he recruits.
I spoke to him earlier today, and he was telling me that the biggest challenge anyone could face is not physical, but it's more mental. It's how you can handle your own self, and if you can overcome yourself and your mental, then really the world is your oyster. Wilcox left it for Chalmers, who sent over hands.
Oh, touch called on that. And you're right, there's so many good athletes here. There's so many guys that are good, that how you handle yourself in adversity is really what makes you the best athlete, because so many guys can play, but can you handle coming off the bench? Can you handle, coming from behind? So there's just so many things that the guys that end up on the court are the toughest mentally, no doubt.
If they win that mental battle, they win that playing time. That's how it's looked for Coach Nygaard in the last couple of seasons, as we do see a challenge here. It looks like USC is challenging a touch call on that play.
I'm not sure if I saw a touch. It looked pretty high, but we'll see. Let's take a look.
I think it splits the uprights. Very close play, don't get me wrong, and nobody had a better view than Derwin Jordan right at the net.
Yeah, I saw the same thing you saw. It looks like it goes right in between the two blockers.
Nice little pocket for the Gauchos, but that actually in favor. It helps USC, and likely this one to be overturned after a second look at it. We'll see how Derwin Jordan comes away with this call, the down referee this evening. This USC team led by Jeff Nygaard, the 3-time Olympian in indoor and beach volleyball, 2-time collegiate MVP as well, and an NCAA champion. You know him at a very personal level.
Yes, yeah. He's one of the most cerebral players I ever met. I actually competed against him in college and then got to sit alongside him for 4 straight years as a coach, and one of the smartest volleyball players I've ever met, and he instills that in his players. Volleyball IQ is everything. Knowing how to play this game is one thing, but learning how to play the game at the highest level, in the heat of the moment, the decisions that you make, and keeping your head on straight is huge, because you have to be able to read the game. You have to understand what they're trying to do, how they're trying to attack you, and you got to figure out what's the best way to attack them and stop what they're trying to do. So he's one of the best I know at teaching that, because he's seen the game at every level possible.
And he says he's nothing without his support system. A guy like Gary Sato, who formerly was an assistant with the U.S. men's national team, and on his resume, a head coach with the Japanese national team. He brings a perspective to this program that is very rare at this sport.
Definitely, and I think that's one of the attributes of a great coach, is their understanding that they need more than just themselves. They need help. They need to ask questions. Jeff's always the one to ask for, what did you see? What do you think? He'll call coaches, club coaches, high school coaches even that he knows, and ask them their thoughts on the game. So I love that when coaches are able to step away from just what they see and try to get vision of other people and colleagues that they know, because we learn from everyone. So that's one of the things I've always admired about Coach Nygaard.
So it looks like they say no touch here, and the point goes to USC. Now, I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the other side of the chessboard today, though. Rick McLaughlin is a two-time AVCA National Coach of the Year. He's got a great support system of his own. He's in his 15th year with the Gauchos and just the second UCSB coach of the last 40 years. So he's built a terrific program in his own right, and perennially these two teams among some of the best in the entire country.
Absolutely, and Coach McLaughlin does such a good job at getting his kids to just fight. The culture in their gym is amazing. These guys are scrappy and will outwork you any match they play.
UC Santa Barbara has shown that over the course of the last couple of seasons under head coach Rick McLaughlin. Here's George Dyer out of system, the back set for Cobrine, who taps hands. Gordon soars out of nowhere. Here's a chance for Chalmers, who drops it home.
Just an unfortunate out of system set for USC. It was pushed a little bit too wide, and Cobrine couldn't get a real swing on it, and Santa Barbara capitalized on it with a great up by Max Gordon.
George Dyer already with 3 assists this evening. That tells you the kind of out-of-system work that UCSB has been able to play. Tennant back in system for Cobrine, who finds hands, and it's out.
I thought I saw a touch on that. Yeah, having a libero that can put up a good set is crucial. When recruiting liberos, that's one thing we look for all the time is, yeah, we know we can pass and dig, but can they set the ball? Because it happens so much.
That versatility so crucial. A lot of these coaches at this level looking for good people and good athletes. Wow, Dylan Klein tracks it down. Tennant got it over. There's Gordon, who set it up for Walmer. Chalmers, the big right-handed cut, and it falls.
That started with the Bick to Wilcox, who knew that the middle blocker was serving and immediately tipped it to area 4, which is short left front over there, because he knew it would be tough for him to get. They ended up getting the ball back and a kill, so that was a smart play by Wilcox.
Yeah, talk about a high IQ, a guy who has been around this game and this program for as long as many can remember with this UCSB team. The Gauchos kept it high, and there's Wilcox with the yellow light hit. And Walmer, the fastball set to Todorov for the finish.
So good in transition. To be able to run the middle like that in transition is gigantic for your success. If you don't have that option, it's really, really difficult to win, and Santa Barbara does that so well.
The Gauchos up by 3 over USC. We'll be right back with more of the first set after this. The vibes are high here at Galen Center off of Figueroa Street in Los Angeles. USC down by 3 against UC Santa Barbara. The Gauchos at the service line after they've gotten out to a couple of runs early on here to take this lead early on in the first set. I'm Max Kelton alongside Coach Cam Green here with me, and both these teams coming off a 5-set loss right before this meeting. USC lost to UC Irvine in 5, while the Gauchos fell to Stanford in the maximum set. How difficult is it being so close yet so far and then coming back and knowing you just want to get right back on track?
It's tough. It's tough also to play back-to-back nights. USC played last night, and it was an incredible match. And being able to turn around mentally and physically, have your body prepared to go ahead and do it again is tough. So I know these teams are hungry. I know Santa Barbara's hungry for a win. Their 1-4 record is not indicative of the type of team they are, and they've been close, but they are playing hard tonight and pushing to get that record to 2-4.
It's interesting. Last year they started at 1-3 as well, and I think a big reason for that was because of how well USC played against them at the A6 Invitational. The Trojans swept the Gauchos, and UC Santa Barbara just looked to get some footing. It was an older team for a couple. At least a couple of the pieces were older, and then a couple of the pieces were younger and didn't have the experience. So a few new faces, including Jack Walmer this year, and it just takes a little bit to get used to your new quarterback on the floor. When you have a new setter who comes in, maybe he just plays a little bit differently. He's used to a different style, and that's why the Gauchos just haven't been able to get their footing quite yet. However, the talent is there. They just have to put the puzzle pieces together.
Yeah, no question. Understanding what your setter is capable of doing in different situations is huge. Knowing if you're a middle, am I going to get the ball when the pass is off the net? And what type of system are we going to be in as much as possible? So it does take some time. Not having Reese Barnett also, I think, is a piece of the puzzle for them. But there's no question they're going to be in it when April comes around. And that's what Coach McLaughlin is trying to get his team to do, is let's build. It's a long season. Let's get better each time we get on the court, and he feels like we're doing that already.
I mean, you look at just the opponents on the opposite side of the net for UC Santa Barbara. Number 2, UCLA. Number 10, USC. They played a couple against number 8, Stanford. These are the best teams in the country. So the Gauchos want to play a high volume of competition to get ready for Big West play. And, of course, these two conferences, the MPSF and the Big West, the two best volleyball conferences in the nation. Klein came in from the 10-foot line to send it home.
Yeah, there's no question. This is the toughest league. Both these leagues out here are the toughest leagues in the nation. There's never a night off. Everybody's good, and you got to be able to stay tough mentally and strong physically to be able to compete night in and night out. It's tough.
So not a bad timeout from Jeff Nygaard a few moments ago as USC is cut into this 3-point deficit. Now it's back to 1. The chance to tie it here. Wilcox, oh man, Dylan Klein got out of that one. If you could dodge a wrench, you could dodge a Wilcox fireball.
Yeah, Santa Barbara going with the heavy dose of Bianchi here because he started hot. They want to keep him going, but they're going to have to mix it up if they're going to want to separate themselves. They're going to have to spread it out a little bit more than they're doing right now, I think.
And the Trojans on a 3-0 scoring run to tie this one up here, where Bianchi, he was great to start out and then struggled a little bit. Granted, he's coming off a career high, so recency bias works in your favor. But tonight, 2 kills over 11 attempts with 1 error for Jess Bianchi. It's just not the efficiency that you're looking for, especially to start out set 1.
Absolutely. I think I'd look for Santa Barbara to come out of this timeout running the middle of the court, either the middle or the Bick out of the back row. Something different than Bianchi because he's struggled a little bit in his last 2 swings, so I think they got to open it up a little bit.
Just trying to find, both these teams trying to find their rhythm. I mean, you look at the folks in attendance today, all they want to see is good volleyball. And so far, these two teams are dead even through the first set of action. And the final 7 points, this is where things get interesting. Now, the Gauchos are coming off a match against Stanford in which the 3rd and 4th set went to extra points, 26-24, and it went in favor of UCSB, then Stanford respectively. So both these teams, they know what it takes to win late in sets. But for you, what was your philosophy?
Well, you have to take care of the ball. Like I said earlier, it's about opportunities. If you get a dig, you got to put up a ball that you can take a real swing at, and you can't be afraid to take the swing. At this point, you got to go for it. You have to take a risk. It's the only way to win. If you start to get tentative or afraid to make mistakes, usually it goes the other way. So you got to stay aggressive, and you got to not be afraid to take a risk here and capitalize on those chances. It's huge. So we'll see what Santa Barbara comes out with here. Again, I wouldn't be surprised to see the middle or a back row attack here.
Sounds like you have to play to win and not to lose.
100%.
So Gallus, after the 3-0 scoring run, sends one long. That's the 5th service error of the evening for USC.
So Ben Corden here as a serving sub out of Maricosta High School. Huge player for Maricosta, and it'll be interesting to see how he hits this serve. It's one of the toughest things to do in volleyball is come off the bench and hit a tough serve.
The 6'4" redshirt freshman in cold off the bench. Can he get it done? Nate Tennant left it for Frastrin, and Hicks and Wilcox were there.
Yeah, they were sitting on that. It looks like they expected that to be coming. So that was a great serve by Ben, and a really good block by Santa Barbara that looked like they were prepared for that very thing. Then we have a blocking sub now.
Yeah, this is Connor Dunn who checks on in for Jack Walmer. Dunn, he is big, but yes, he is also listed as a setter. That's who he will step in for. They get him in there for big hands. Now Dunn comes over to set it for Wilcox, who tops the hands, and it falls.
Yeah, that was another good swing high off the hands, which is how you kill the ball on the outside in this league. That's what you have to go. So looks like another timeout here for Coach Nygaard.
Ryan Wilcox and the Gauchos come out to a 3-0 run after USC was able to tie things up late in this one. It's so difficult to come back deep into a set, and the best way that USC can do it is?
Well, you have to understand that you don't, even though it's late in the set, you don't need them all right now. You side out, you get one, you're close. All of a sudden it's, 21-20, right? So you have to look at it that way instead of trying to overcome all of it at once. Do your job, take advantage of the opportunities you get. If they side out or they score a point, it's okay. You can still do it. But as it gets later, of course, it becomes crunch time. But right now, they have time to come back. They just have to be patient and not try to overdo it.
And it's interesting seeing the two different coaching styles. If you look at the USC bench right now, Jeff Nygaard is talking to his support staff, giving an idea of what kind of game plan they'd like to run here. And UC Santa Barbara and head coach Rick McLaughlin sits them down and talks to the players and tries to run them through that type of philosophy. So it's two different coaching styles, and it's not always like that. But in this case, just two chess players who would like to play different ideas of the board.
Absolutely. I think Coach McLaughlin and his staff knew what they wanted to do defensively in this rotation for USC. And Coach Nygaard was trying to decide offensively what changes they could make and how they can make a switch and hopefully spark their team a little bit. So Coach McLaughlin was ready. They have a good plan, you can tell, and we'll see what happens here.
Simon Gallus checks out here. He's hitting under 10% on swings. That brings Jack Duker in for the first time this evening. Ben Court remains back at the service line. Tennant fires for Duker. And the whistle from down ref Derwin Jordan. Walk me through that play.
Well, first of all, I think it's a pretty gutsy set to go to the guy that just came in off the bench. That doesn't happen very often. But as a setter, you got to be able to make the right set. In that situation, it was, because there's no question Santa Barbara was not prepared for them to run the D on that play. And he took a great swing, which is tough to do off the bench.
And Jack Duker is a 6'8" junior. He's a gangly and smooth outside hitter, so no doubt they have some confidence in him. That time, Cobrine sends it past the service line.
Be interesting to see if there's a challenge here. That one looked pretty close. I think Coach Nygaard's just stalling the game a little bit right here, trying to disrupt the rhythm. A little bit of gamesmanship.
Yeah. The game with inside the game. Klein tried the waterfall touch. Wow, Jess Bianchi with a big swing. His left is so lethal.
It's tough, and it's really tough to figure out how to block lefties. No matter how many times you see him, you just don't see him enough to be able to get a real rhythm on where to be. And I think Dylan Klein's got to take a swing on that play. When it comes to crunch time, you got to hit the ball.
Bianchi has improved over the course of the last couple of seasons. Just a tall player who's sitting at opposite this evening. who can climb the ladder well. That time a much needed side out for USC, and Lucas Frasrind and the Trojans must go on a run in order to take the first.
Yeah, there's no doubt you got to put some pressure on him here, and hopefully you can get him out of system, get a good touch on the block and transition and score one and make them think a little bit about what they're doing. So here's a float serve here. I expect him to probably go down the line to area 1. It looks like he went cross court with the attempt to take out the middle blocker. That was a really good serve because it disrupted the middle blocker's route. Santa Barbara still got the side out, but that was a pretty smart serve.
Ryan Wilcox is just a heads-up player, makes things difficult, and can read the floor so well. That's his 5th kill of the evening, tied with Dylan Klein for a game high. Now Wilcox at the service line. He's coming off a performance with 2 service aces and also 5 service errors. There's a service error that sends the side out back to the Trojans.
I think it's a pretty well-discussed dilemma here on what coaches like to do, whether just hit it and not worry about mistakes. And some have that same philosophy, and some are more keep it in. So every coach is different.
Walmer for Bianchi, cut it down the line. It's kept high. There's Tennant who left it for Duker, overhands, and that was Wilcox there. Dane Chalmers gets the kill, and UC Santa Barbara takes set 1 over number 10, USC. A matchup between 2 of the best programs.